Elara Vance thought invisibility was safety, until the night she saw the blood. One heartbeat later, steel fingers locked around her wrist, and she was shoved into a car that smelled of leather and gunpowder. The man beside her didn't blink, didn't apologize. Ronan Hale, Dublin's most dangerous name, simply said, "You're coming with me." No explanation, no choice. In 60 seconds, the gardener's daughter became something she'd never been, seen. And in his world, being seen meant you were either protected or already dead. If you're hooked, stay until the end. Hit like and drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. The garden shears felt heavier than they should have. Elara Vance knelt in the damp earth behind the rose beds, her fingers stained green from trimming back wild growth that had crept over the stone path. The Ashford estate sprawled behind her like a sleeping giant, 3 stories of old money and older secrets, perched on the cliffs overlooking the Irish Sea. She'd lived here her entire life, 23 years of pruning hedges, watering orchards, staying quiet. Her father always said the same thing, "Keep your head down, Ellie. We're not part of their world." She'd believed him. The moon hung low and fat over the water, casting silver across the gravel driveway. It was nearly midnight. She shouldn't have been out here this late, but the roses needed work, and Mrs. Ashford had been specific. Get them done before the party this weekend. Elara didn't argue. She never did. She was wiping dirt from her palms when she heard the car, not the familiar purr of the Ashfords' vehicles. This was different, lower, meaner, the kind of engine that didn't apologize for the space it took. Elara froze. 3 black sedans rolled up the drive, headlights cutting through the mist. They stopped in a perfect line, doors opening in unison. Men stepped out, 6 of them, dressed in dark suits that looked expensive even from a distance. They moved like soldiers, controlled, efficient. She should have run, but her legs wouldn't work. The front door of the estate opened. Marcus Ashford emerged, his face pale in the porch light. He was a tall man, broad-shouldered, the kind who filled a room without trying. But tonight he looked small, nervous. One of the men stepped forward. Even in the shadows, Elara could see the sharp line of his jaw, the way his coat fit like it had been tailored to his breathing. He didn't raise his voice, but his words carried. "You've been avoiding my calls, Marcus." Ashford's hands trembled. "Ronan, I just need more time." "You've had time." The man, Ronan, didn't move closer. He didn't need to. His presence was a weight all on its own. "I have the money," Ashford said quickly. "Most of it. Just another week. Please." Ronan tilted his head. "You think I run a charity?" No, of course not. You borrowed from me. You spent it. Now you're stalling." His voice was calm, too calm. "That's disrespectful, Marcus." Elara's heart hammered against her ribs. She was too far to hear every word, but the tension was unmistakable. This wasn't a business meeting. This was something else. Ashford's voice cracked. "I'll get it. I swear." Ronan's hand moved. It happened so fast, Elara almost missed it. One of the men beside him pulled something from his coat, a glint of metal, small and deadly. Ashford stumbled backward, hands raised. Wait, please." The sound was sharp, hollow, a gunshot. Elara's breath stopped. Ashford collapsed onto the stone steps, his body folding like paper. Blood pooled beneath him, dark and spreading. She clapped a hand over her mouth to keep from screaming. The men didn't react. One of them crouched down, checked Ashford's pulse, then stood and nodded to Ronan. No urgency, no panic, just routine. Ronan looked down at the body for a long moment. Then he turned, and his eyes locked on hers. Elara's entire world narrowed to that single point. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. His gaze was sharp, unflinching, like he could see straight through the rose bushes, through the dark, through her skin. He said something to the man beside him. Then he started walking, toward her. Elara bolted. She didn't think, didn't plan. She just ran. Her boots slipped on wet grass as she tore through the garden, shears clattering to the ground behind her. The hedges blurred past. Her lungs burned. She didn't know where she was going, just away. Footsteps pounded behind her. Fast, too fast. She cut left toward the old greenhouse. her fingers scraping against the glass door as she yanked it open. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of soil and rotting leaves. She ducked behind a shelf of potted ferns, pressing herself into the corner, trying to control her breathing. The door creaked open. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. "Come out!" His voice was low, almost gentle. It didn't match the gun she'd just seen, the body on the steps, the blood. Alara squeezed her eyes shut. "I'm not going to hurt you." She didn't believe him. "But if you make me drag you out, I'll be significantly less patient." Her hands shook. She could hear him moving closer, his shoes crunching on scattered dirt. There was nowhere to go, no back door, no escape. She stepped out. Ronan Hale stood 3 feet away, hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable. Up close, he was worse, sharper. Every line of his face looked carved, deliberate. His eyes were dark, not brown, not black, something in between. Old eyes, tired eyes, eyes that had seen too much. "What's your name?" he asked. Alara's throat was dry. "Alara." "Alara what?" "Vance." He studied her for a moment, his gaze sweeping over her dirt-stained jeans, her oversized sweater, her bare hands. "You work here." It wasn't a question. She nodded. "Doing what?" "Gardening." Her voice came out hoarse. "Just gardening." Ronan's jaw tightened. He glanced back toward the estate, where the men were already moving Ashford's body. Efficient. Practiced. When he looked at her again, something in his expression had shifted. "You saw." It wasn't an accusation, just a fact. Alara's knees nearly gave out. I won't say anything. I swear. I didn't see anything. I'll forget." "You won't." The certainty in his voice made her stomach drop. "I can," she whispered. "I will, please." Ronan stepped closer. She flinched, but he didn't reach for her. He just stood there, studying her like she was a problem he hadn't expected. "You have 2 choices," he said quietly. "You come with me, or you stay here and become a loose end." I wouldn't. "I don't know that." His tone was almost apologetic. "And I don't take risks." Alara's vision blurred. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. "Please," she breathed. "I'm nobody. I'm just—" "You're a witness." He said it like it was the simplest thing in the world. And witnesses don't stay nobody for long. She wanted to run again, wanted to scream. But his eyes held her in place, and she knew that if she moved, if she fought, it would only make things worse. Ronan pulled his phone from his pocket, typed something, and slipped it away. "Car's coming," he said. "You're going to walk with me, calmly. Don't make a scene." Where are you taking me?" "Somewhere safe." "Safe?" Her voice cracked. "You just killed someone." "I didn't." He tilted his head. "But semantics won't help you right now." A black sedan pulled up to the edge of the garden, headlights cutting through the greenhouse glass. The door opened. Ronan gestured toward it. "Let's go." Alara didn't move. His expression didn't change, but his voice dropped. "Alara, I'm trying to be kind. Don't make me stop." Her legs moved before her brain could catch up. She walked toward the car, every step feeling like a betrayal of her own survival instinct. Ronan followed close behind, his presence a wall she couldn't escape. The driver didn't look at her, didn't acknowledge her, just waited. Ronan opened the door. "Get in." She hesitated. "Now!" Alara climbed inside. The leather seat was cold. The door shut with a solid thunk that made her chest tighten. Ronan slid in beside her. The car pulled away. Mog. The drive was silent. Alara pressed herself against the door, her fingers curled tight in her lap. The city lights blurred past. Streets she'd never walked, buildings she'd only seen from a distance. Dublin had always felt too big, too loud. Now it felt like a trap. Ronan sat perfectly still, his gaze fixed on the window. He didn't speak, didn't explain, just existed beside her like a storm waiting to break. After 20 minutes, the car turned down a narrow street lined with old brick warehouses. It stopped in front of a building with no sign, no lights, just a steel door. Ronan got out. Alara didn't move. He leaned back in, his voice flat. "You can walk, or I can carry you. Your choice." She got out. The night air was sharp and cold, biting through her sweater. Ronan led her to the door, pressed his palm against a scanner, and it clicked open. Inside, the hallway was stark. Concrete floors, fluorescent lights, the smell of metal and oil. They took an elevator to the top floor. When the doors opened, Alara stepped into a space that didn't match the building below. It was sleek, modern. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, and the furniture looked like it belonged in a magazine. Everything was clean lines and muted colors. Ronan shrugged off his coat and draped it over a chair. Sit. Alara didn't. He sighed. I'm not going to hurt you. You already did. His gaze snapped to hers, something flickering behind his eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or guilt. It was gone too fast to tell. Sit down, Alara. This time, she did. Ronan poured 2 glasses of water from a pitcher on the counter and set one in front of her. She didn't touch it. He sat across from her, his elbows on the table, hands folded. For a long moment, he just watched her. You're scared, he said finally. Of course I'm scared. Her voice shook. You kidnapped me. I removed you from a dangerous situation. You created the dangerous situation. Ronan's mouth twitched, almost a smile, but not quite. Fair. Alara's hands trembled in her lap. What do you want from me? Nothing. Then let me go. I can't. Why not? He leaned back, his expression unreadable. Because the second you walk out that door, you become a target. And I don't feel like explaining to my associates why I left a witness alive. So you're just going to keep me here? Forever? For now. Alara's chest tightened. This is insane. Yes. He said it without irony. It is. She stared at him, searching for something, anything that made sense. But there was nothing, just cold logic wrapped in expensive clothes. Who are you? She whispered. Ronan's gaze didn't waver. You already know. She did. The name had been whispered in the Ashford household for years. Ronan Hale. The man you didn't cross. The man who owned half of Dublin's underworld and the other half pretended he didn't exist. I didn't ask for this, Alara said quietly. Neither did I. Then why? Because you were there. His voice was sharp now, cutting. And I don't get the luxury of pretending I didn't see you. Alara's breath hitched. So what happens now? Ronan stood, moving to the window. The city sprawled below him, lights flickering like dying stars. Now, he said, you stay here. You don't leave. You don't call anyone. You don't try to run. And if I do? He turned, his silhouette framed by the glass. Then I'll find you, and it won't be kind. Alara's hands curled into fists. You can't just keep me prisoner. I can. He said it like a fact. And I will, until I figure out what to do with you. I'm not a thing. No. His voice softened, just barely. You're a complication. The first night was the worst. Ronan showed her to a bedroom, clean, sterile, with a bed that looked untouched. He told her she could use anything she needed. Shower, clothes in the closet, food in the kitchen. Then he locked the door from the outside. Alara sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, her mind racing. She thought about her father, about the cottage on the edge of the estate, the narrow bed she'd slept in since she was a child. He'd be looking for her by now, panicking. She thought about Ashford's body, the blood, the way Ronan's men had moved like it was nothing. She thought about running, but the window didn't open. The door was solid, and even if she got out, where would she go? She curled up on the bed, still wearing her dirt-stained clothes, and tried not to cry. Sag. The next morning, Ronan was already awake. Alara found him in the kitchen, dressed in a crisp white shirt and dark slacks, reading something on his phone. He glanced up when she entered, his expression unreadable. Coffee? He offered. She didn't answer. He poured a cup anyway and set it on the counter. There's food in the fridge. Help yourself. Alara stayed by the doorway, her arms crossed. How long are you going to keep me here? As long as it takes. For what? Ronan's jaw tightened. For me to clean up the mess. I'm not a mess. No. He looked at her then, really looked. You're a liability. The word stung more than it should have. Alara stepped closer, her voice low. I didn't ask to see what I saw. I didn't ask for any of this. I know. Then let me go. I can't. Why not? Ronan set his phone down, his gaze steady. Because if I let you go, someone else will find you, and they won't be as patient as I am. Elara's stomach twisted. Who? People who don't like loose ends. I'm not. You are. His voice was firm now, cutting through her protest. The second you saw what happened, you became part of this. And I can't undo that. Elara felt the weight of it settle over her, the impossibility, the trap. So what am I supposed to do? She whispered. Ronan's expression softened just slightly. Survive. The days blurred together. Elara spent most of her time in the apartment, pacing the same rooms, staring out the same windows. Ronan came and went, his schedule unpredictable. Sometimes he was gone for hours. Sometimes he sat at the table working on his laptop, his presence a constant reminder that she wasn't free. He didn't talk much, didn't explain, just existed in the same space, silent and watchful. But slowly, things shifted. On the third day, he brought her books, a stack of them, everything from fiction to philosophy. He set them on the coffee table without a word and left. On the fifth day, he unlocked the bedroom door. You don't need to be locked in, he said. Just don't leave the apartment. Elara stared at him. Why? Because I'm choosing to trust you. It felt like a test. On the seventh day, she asked him a question. Why do you do this? Ronan looked up from his laptop. Do what? This. She gestured vaguely. The violence, the control, all of it. He didn't answer right away, just studied her, like he was deciding how much truth she could handle. Because someone has to, he said finally. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. Elara sat across from him, her hands folded on the table. Do you ever regret it? Ronan's gaze sharpened. Regret what? The things you've done. He was quiet for a long moment, then, every day. The honesty surprised her. But you keep doing it, she said. Yes. Why? Ronan closed his laptop, his expression unreadable. Because stopping doesn't erase what's already happened. It just makes you vulnerable. Elara didn't know what to say to that. 2 weeks in, Ronan brought her outside. Not far, just to the rooftop of the building. The air was cold, sharp with the smell of rain. The city stretched out below them, lights flickering in the dusk. Elara stood at the edge, her fingers gripping the railing. She hadn't felt wind in days. Ronan stood beside her, hands in his pockets. You miss it. What? The garden. She didn't answer. I had someone check on your father, he said quietly. He's fine. Thinks you ran off to Cork with a boyfriend. Elara's chest tightened. You lied to him. I protected him. Ronan's voice was calm. If he knew the truth, he'd come looking, and that would put him in danger. So you just made up a story? Yes. Elara turned to him, her eyes burning. Do you ever tell the truth? Ronan met her gaze. When it matters. And this doesn't? This is survival, Elara. Truth is a luxury. She looked away, her throat tight. They stood in silence for a long time. The wind picked up, pulling at her hair, and she closed her eyes, trying to remember what freedom felt like. When she opened them, Ronan was watching her. What? She asked. He didn't look away. You're stronger than you think. Elara laughed bitterly. I'm a prisoner. You're alive. Is that supposed to be comforting? Ronan's expression didn't change. It's supposed to be true. 3 weeks in, everything changed. Elara was in the kitchen when she heard voices, low, tense. She moved to the hallway and saw Ronan standing by the door, talking to one of his men, a broad-shouldered man with a scar across his cheek. She's a problem, Ronan, the man said. The longer she's here, the more questions people ask. Let them ask. They're not just asking, they're digging. Ronan's jaw tightened. Then bury it deeper. That's not how this works. You know that. Elara's heart pounded. She stepped back, trying to stay out of sight, but Ronan's gaze flicked to her. He saw her. The man followed his gaze, his expression hardening. She's listening. Ronan's voice was ice. Leave. Ronan, leave. The man hesitated, then turned and walked out. Ronan stood there for a moment, his shoulders tense. Then he looked at Alara. Come here. She didn't move. Alara. Slowly, she stepped into the hallway. Ronan's expression was unreadable. How much did you hear? Enough, he exhaled, running a hand through his hair. I need you to trust me. Trust you? Her voice cracked. You've kept me locked up for 3 weeks. I don't even know who you are. Yes, you do. No, I don't. She stepped closer, her hands shaking. I know what you do. I know you're dangerous, but I don't know why. I don't know what you want from me. I don't know if I'm ever getting out of here. Ronan's gaze softened. You will. When? When it's safe. And when will that be? He didn't answer. Alara's chest tightened. You don't know, do you? Ronan looked away. No. The admission hit harder than she expected. So I'm just supposed to wait, she said quietly. Forever. Not forever. How long? Ronan met her eyes. As long as it takes to keep you alive. That night, Alara couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. She thought about her father, about the garden, about the life she'd had before all of this. And she thought about Ronan, the way he looked at her, the way he spoke to her, like she was something fragile, something worth protecting. It didn't make sense. She got up, padding quietly to the living room. Ronan was still awake, sitting on the couch with a glass of whiskey in his hand. He looked up when she entered. Can't sleep? He asked. Alara shook her head. He gestured to the seat beside him. Sit. She hesitated, then sat. Ronan took a sip of his drink, his gaze distant. You want to know why I'm doing this? It wasn't a question. Alara nodded. Ronan set the glass down, his jaw tight. Because I've spent my entire life making decisions that hurt people. And for once, I wanted to make a different one. By kidnapping me? By keeping you alive. Alara stared at him. That doesn't make it right. I know. His voice was quiet. But it's the best I can do. She didn't know what to say to that. Ronan looked at her then, really looked. You remind me of someone. Who? He didn't answer. Alara's chest tightened. Ronan! Go to bed, Alara. But... Go to bed. She stood, her hands trembling, and walked back to her room. But when she closed the door, she heard him whisper something. Too quiet to make out. Too heavy to ignore. The next morning, Ronan was gone. Alara woke to an empty apartment, a note on the counter. Stay inside. I'll be back tonight. She crumpled the note in her fist. For the first time in weeks, she was alone. Truly alone. And she realized something. She wasn't afraid of Ronan anymore. She was afraid of what came next. Because the longer she stayed, the more she felt it. The shift. The pull. The dangerous, terrifying realization that somewhere in the past 3 weeks, she'd stopped seeing him as a captor. And started seeing him as something else. Something worse. Someone she was beginning to understand. When Ronan came back that night, he wasn't alone. Alara heard voices. Multiple. Urgent. She stepped into the hallway and froze. Ronan stood in the living room, his shirt stained with blood. Not his, someone else's. His expression was hard, carved from stone, and beside him stood a woman. Tall. Elegant. With sharp eyes and sharper words. This is the girl, the woman asked, her gaze sweeping over Alara. Ronan's jaw tightened. Yes. The woman stepped closer, studying Alara like she was a puzzle. She doesn't look like much. She doesn't need to. The woman's smile was cold. You're playing a dangerous game, Ronan. I know. Do you? She tilted her head. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're about to lose everything. Ronan's voice was ice. Get out. The woman laughed. Gladly. She walked past Alara, pausing at the door. Good luck, darling. You're going to need it. Then she was gone. Alara turned to Ronan, her heart pounding. What was that? Ronan didn't answer. He just stood there, staring at the door, his hands curled into fists. Ronan. He looked at her then, and for the first time she saw it. Fear. "We need to leave," he said quietly. "What? Why?" "Because they know you're here." Alara's stomach dropped. "Who?" Ronan's gaze was hard. "Everyone. They left within the hour." Ronan moved through the apartment like a man preparing for war. He pulled bags from closets Alara didn't know existed, filled them with cash, passports, things she couldn't identify. His movements were precise, mechanical, but his jaw was locked so tight she could see the muscle jumping beneath his skin. Alara stood in the doorway, her heart hammering. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere they won't look." He didn't stop packing. "Who's they? Does it matter?" "Yes." Ronan zipped the bag shut and turned to her. His eyes were dark, sharp. "People who want you dead, Alara, is that specific enough?" Her breath caught. "Why? I didn't do anything." "You exist." He grabbed another bag, threw it over his shoulder. "That's enough." "That doesn't make sense." "Welcome to my world." Alara's hands curled into fists. "Stop talking to me like I'm a child." Ronan's gaze snapped to hers. For a moment, something flickered in his expression. Anger, maybe, or exhaustion. He set the bag down and crossed the room until he was standing in front of her, close enough that she could smell the faint trace of smoke on his clothes. "You want the truth?" His voice was low, dangerous. "Fine. The people I work with don't like complications. And you, whether you like it or not, are a complication. The woman who is here tonight? She's already spread the word that I'm harboring a witness. Now every operator in Dublin knows your face, and if I don't move you, they'll come for you, not to question you, to eliminate you." Alara's stomach twisted. "Then why don't you just kill you?" Ronan's mouth tightened. "'Cause I'm not them." "But you could be." He didn't deny it. Alara's throat felt dry. "So what do we do?" "We run." Ronan grabbed the bag again. "And we don't stop until I say so, set." The car was different this time. Smaller. Older. Nothing like the sleek sedans from before. Ronan drove, his knuckles white on the steering wheel, his gaze flicking constantly to the rearview mirror. Alara sat in the passenger seat, her fingers twisted in her lap. The city lights blurred past, familiar streets giving way to narrower roads, then highways. She didn't know where they were going, didn't ask. After an hour, Ronan pulled off onto a dirt road that cut through thick woods. The headlights carved pale tunnels through the darkness. The car bounced over ruts and rocks, and Alara had to brace herself against the door to keep from being thrown around. Finally, Ronan stopped. In front of them stood a cabin, small, sagging, half hidden by overgrown trees. It looked abandoned. "Out," Ronan said. Alara climbed out, her legs stiff. The air smelled like pine and damp earth. Somewhere in the distance, an owl called. Ronan grabbed the bags and headed for the cabin. Alara followed, her shoes crunching on dead leaves. Inside the cabin was worse. Dust-covered furniture, cobwebs in the corners, a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling that flickered when Ronan flipped the switch. He dropped the bags on the floor and turned to her. "It's not much. It's a nightmare. It's safe." He moved to the window, peered through the grimy glass. "No one knows about this place." "How can you be sure?" "Because I've never brought anyone here." Alara stared at him. "Why now?" Ronan didn't answer. He just pulled the curtains shut and turned away. The first night in the cabin was colder than Alara expected. Ronan built a fire in the old stone fireplace, coaxing flames from damp wood until the room filled with warmth and the smell of smoke. Alara sat on the edge of a moth-eaten couch, her arms wrapped around herself. Ronan stood by the fire, his back to her. The light played across his shoulders, casting shadows that made him look bigger, harder. "You should sleep," he said without turning. "I'm not tired." "You will be." Alara watched the fire, the way the flames twisted and curled. "How long do we stay here?" "Until I figure out what to do." "That's not an answer." Ronan's shoulders tensed. "It's the only one I have." Alara stood, her frustration boiling over. "You keep saying that, but you don't actually tell me anything. I don't know who's after us. I don't know why. I don't even know who you really are." Ronan turned, his eyes dark. "You know enough." "No, I don't." He stepped closer, and the air between them felt heavy. What do you want me to say, Alara? That I'm a good man? That I do this for noble reasons? I'm not. I don't. I run an empire built on fear and blood, and every decision I make destroys someone. That's who I am. Alara's voice shook. Then why did you save me? Ronan's jaw tightened. He looked away. I don't know. Liar. His gaze snapped back to hers, sharp and furious. Excuse me? You're lying. Alara stepped closer, her hands trembling. You know exactly why. You just won't say it. Ronan's expression was unreadable. For a long moment, he just stared at her, his breathing controlled, deliberate. Then he turned and walked out. The door slammed behind him. Alara stood there, her chest heaving, the firelight flickering against the walls. She wanted to scream. Ronan didn't come back for hours. Alara tried to sleep, but the couch was lumpy and the silence was too loud. She kept thinking about the way he'd looked at her, the anger, the exhaustion, the fear. When he finally returned, it was past midnight. He didn't say anything, just walked to the other side of the room, dropped onto a chair, and stared at the dying fire. Alara sat up. Where did you go? Out. That's not an answer. Ronan's laugh was bitter. You're starting to sound like me. Maybe that's because you're rubbing off on me. He looked at her then, his eyes red-rimmed. That's not a good thing? Alara pulled a blanket around her shoulders. Why did that woman say I don't look like much? Ronan's expression hardened. Because she's a bitch. That's not why. He sighed, rubbing a hand over his face. She thinks you're leverage, something I'm holding on to for a reason. Am I? No. Then what am I? Ronan's gaze locked on hers. A mistake. The word hit like a slap. Alara's throat tightened. Thanks. Not like that. Ronan stood, pacing. I mean, keeping you alive is a mistake. Strategically, logically. Every rule I've ever followed says I should have dealt with you the night we met, but I didn't, and now I'm paying for it. So let me go. I can't. Why not? Ronan stopped pacing. His voice dropped, low and raw. Because I don't trust anyone else to keep you safe. Alara's breath caught. Ronan looked away, his hands curling into fists. That woman tonight? Siobhan. She runs the north side. We've worked together for years. And she'd kill you without blinking if it meant securing her territory. So would Marcus's old associates. So would half the people I do business with. The only reason you're still breathing is because I'm standing between you and them. And the second I step away, you're done. Alara's voice was barely a whisper. So what happens when you get tired of standing? Ronan met her eyes. I don't know. The days in the cabin bled together. Ronan barely spoke. He spent most of his time on his phone, making calls in clipped, tense sentences. Alara caught fragments, names she didn't recognize, places she'd never heard of, threats delivered in a voice that could cut glass. She tried to stay out of his way, cleaned the cabin, cooked what little food they had, stared out the window at the endless trees, but the silence was suffocating. On the third day, she broke. I need to call my father. Ronan looked up from his phone, his expression flat. No. He thinks I ran away. He's probably... I said no. Alara's hand shook. You can't just cut me off from everyone. I can. I am. Ronan stood, his jaw tight. Every call you make is a trail. Every message is a risk. I'm not letting you compromise our location because you're homesick. He's my father. And he's alive because he doesn't know where you are. Ronan's voice was cold. You want to keep it that way? Then shut up and stay quiet. Alara's vision blurred. I hate you. Ronan didn't flinch. Good. Hate keeps you sharp. She turned and walked away before he could see her cry. Gammed. That night, Alara woke to the sound of breaking glass. She bolted upright, her heart hammering. The cabin was dark except for the faint glow of embers in the fireplace. She could hear voices outside, low, harsh. Ronan was already on his feet, a gun in his hand. He moved to the window, peered out, then cursed under his breath. Stay here, he whispered. What's happening? They found us. Alara's stomach dropped. How? Doesn't matter. Ronan grabbed her arm, pulled her toward the back of the cabin. There's a door in the bedroom. It leads to the woods. You go through it, you run straight, you don't stop. What about you? I'll handle it. Ronan, go. The front door exploded inward. Two men stepped through, guns raised. Ronan fired before they could speak. The sound was deafening. One man dropped. The other dove behind the couch. Ronan shoved Alara toward the bedroom. Move! She ran. Behind her, she heard gunfire, shouting, the crash of furniture. She burst into the bedroom, found the door, yanked it open. The woods stretched out in front of her, dark and endless. She hesitated. Ronan's voice echoed through the cabin. Run! Alara ran. Branches tore at her clothes. Her breath came in ragged gasps. She didn't know where she was going, didn't care, just away. Behind her, the gunfire stopped. Then silence. Alara kept running until her legs gave out. She collapsed against a tree, her chest heaving, her hands bleeding from scraping against bark. She waited. Minutes stretched into hours. Ronan didn't come. When the sun rose, Alara was still in the woods. She didn't know which way to go. Didn't know if Ronan was alive or dead. Didn't know if the men were still looking for her. She was alone, truly alone, and terrified. She tried to retrace her steps, but everything looked the same. Trees, shadows, endless green. She walked for what felt like hours, her throat dry, her legs shaking. She was about to give up when she heard a sound. A car engine. Alara froze. The sound grew louder, closer. She ducked behind a tree, her heart pounding, and waited. A black SUV rolled into view. It stopped. The door opened. Ronan stepped out. Alara's breath left her in a rush. She stumbled forward, her legs barely holding her. Ronan turned, his eyes locking on hers. He looked like hell. His shirt was torn, stained with blood. His face was bruised, one eye swelling shut, but he was alive. Alara reached him, her hands shaking. I thought... Ronan grabbed her, pulled her close. His arms were iron around her, his breathing harsh against her hair. You ran, he said, his voice rough. You told me to. I know. He pulled back, his hands framing her face. Are you hurt? Alara shook her head. Ronan's jaw tightened. He looked at her like he was memorizing her, like he'd thought he'd never see her again. Then he let go and stepped back. We need to move, he said. Where? Somewhere they won't follow. Where's that? Ronan's expression was grim. I don't know yet. They drove for hours. Ronan didn't speak, didn't explain, just drove, his knuckles white on the wheel, his gaze distant. Alara watched him, her chest tight. The bruises on his face were darkening. Blood had dried on his collar. What happened back there? She asked quietly. I dealt with it. Ronan? They're dead, Alara. His voice was flat. All of them. That's what happened. Alara's stomach turned. Did you know them? Does it matter? Yes. Ronan's jaw tightened. One of them. His name was Liam. Worked for me for 3 years. Alara's breath caught. He turned on you? Money talks louder than loyalty. Ronan's laugh was bitter. I should have seen it coming. I'm sorry. Don't be. He glanced at her, his eyes hard. This is what my world looks like. Betrayal. Blood. Survival. You wanted to know who I am? This is it. Alara looked away. I didn't ask for this. Neither did I. They drove in silence after that. Bye, see. They stopped at a motel 2 hours later. It was a dump, peeling paint, flickering neon sign, a clerk who didn't ask questions. Ronan paid cash for a room. They climbed the stairs in silence. Inside, the room was small and stale. A single bed, a bathroom with a cracked mirror, a TV that didn't work. Ronan locked the door, checked the window, then sat on the edge of the bed and put his head in his hands. Alara stood by the door, watching him. Are you okay? She asked. Ronan laughed. It was a hollow sound. No. What do we do now? I don't know. Alara crossed the room, sat beside him. Ronan, I'm tired, Alara. His voice cracked. I'm so goddamn tired. She didn't know what to say. Ronan looked at her, his eyes red. I've been doing this for 15 years. Building, protecting, destroying. And for what? So I can die in some shitty motel room with a girl I was supposed to kill 3 weeks ago? Alara's throat tightened. You're not going to die. You don't know that. Neither do you. Ronan's mouth twitched, almost a smile. You're stubborn. I learned from the best. He shook his head, leaning back against the headboard. You should have run when you had the chance. I did run. Not far enough. Alara's chest ached. Maybe I didn't want to. Ronan's gaze sharpened. What? She looked away. Nothing. Alara. Forget it. Ronan grabbed her wrist, gentle but firm. Say it. Alara's heart pounded. She pulled her hand free, stood, walked to the window. Outside, the parking lot was empty. The neon sign buzzed and flickered. I don't know what I'm doing, she whispered. I don't know why I didn't keep running. I don't know why I... She trailed off, her hands curling into fists. Why you what? Alara turned to face him. Why I care if you live or die. Ronan stared at her, the silence stretched. Then he stood, crossed the room, and stopped in front of her. You shouldn't, he said quietly. I know. I'm not a good man. I know. I'll only hurt you. You already have. Ronan's jaw tightened. His hand lifted, hesitated, then brushed a strand of hair from her face. His touch was careful, reverent. Alara's breath caught. This is a mistake, Ronan murmured. I know. We should stop. I know. But neither of them moved. Ronan's thumb traced the line of her jaw, his eyes searching hers. Tell me to walk away. Alara's voice was barely a whisper. I can't. Ronan's control snapped. He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, raw, like drowning and breathing at the same time. His hands tangled in her hair, pulling her closer, and Alara's fingers dug into his shoulders, holding on like he was the only solid thing in a world that had gone to hell. When they broke apart, both of them were breathing hard. Ronan rested his forehead against hers. This changes nothing. I know. We're still in danger. I know. I know. Alara's hands framed his face, her thumbs brushing over his bruised cheekbone. I know who you are, Ronan, and I'm still here. Ronan's eyes closed. You're going to regret this. Probably. He kissed her again, slower this time, like he was trying to memorize the shape of her mouth, the taste of her breath. When he pulled back, his voice was rough. Get some sleep. What about you? I'll keep watch. Alara wanted to argue, but exhaustion was pulling at her, dragging her under. She climbed onto the bed, still wearing her clothes, and closed her eyes. Ronan sat by the window, his gun on his lap, his gaze fixed on the parking lot. Alara fell asleep to the sound of his breathing. She woke to shouting. Alara bolted upright, disoriented. The room was dark. Ronan was at the window, his phone pressed to his ear, his voice low and furious. I don't care what you have to do. Find them. Now. He ended the call, threw the phone onto the bed. Alara sat up. What's wrong? Ronan turned to her, his expression grim. They know where we are. Her stomach dropped. How? I don't know. But we have maybe 20 minutes before they get here. Alara scrambled off the bed. Then we leave. It's not that simple. Ronan paced, his hands in his hair. They're covering every route out of the city. We run, they'll track us. We stay, they'll find us. So what do we do? Ronan stopped pacing, his gaze locked on hers. We fight. Alara's breath caught. What? We set a trap, lure them in, end this. That's insane. It's the only option. Ronan grabbed his gun, checked the clip. I'm done running, Alara, and I'm done letting them dictate the rules. Alara's hands shook. What if we lose? Ronan's smile was cold. Then we die fighting. Come out. They had 15 minutes. Ronan moved through the room like a man possessed, setting up tripwires, positioning furniture, checking angles. Alara helped where she could, her heart pounding. When they come through that door, Ronan said, pointing, you stay behind the bed. You don't move. You don't make a sound. Understand? Alara nodded. If I go down, you run. You don't look back. You don't try to help. You just run. Ronan, promise me. Alara's throat tightened. I promise. Ronan grabbed her face, kissed her hard and fast. Good. Then he took position by the door. They waited. The minutes crawled. Alara's breathing was too loud. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Then she heard it. Footsteps. Outside. Ronan's finger moved to the trigger. The door exploded inward. 3 men rushed through. Ronan fired. The first man dropped. The second dove left. The third fired back, and Ronan ducked behind the overturned table. Gunfire filled the room. Alara pressed herself against the floor, her hands over her ears, her heart hammering so hard she thought it would break through her ribs. Ronan moved like a predator, firing, dodging, reloading. One of the men went down, then another. The third man made it to the bed. He saw Alara, raised his gun. Ronan tackled him from the side. They hit the floor hard, grappling. The gun skittered across the room. Alara scrambled for it. Her fingers closed around the grip just as the man threw Ronan off. He lunged for her. Alara pulled the trigger. The sound was deafening. The man stopped, stared at her, then collapsed. Alara dropped the gun, her hand shaking so hard she couldn't breathe. Ronan pulled himself up, blood streaming from a cut above his eye. He looked at the body, then at her. You okay? Alara shook her head. Ronan crossed to her, pulled her into his arms. It's over. You're okay. But Alara couldn't stop shaking, because she just killed someone. And the worst part? She didn't feel guilty. She felt numb. They left the motel before the police arrived. Ronan drove in silence, his knuckles white on the wheel. Alara sat beside him, staring at her hands. She could still feel the recoil, the weight of the gun, the way the man had looked at her before he fell. Talk to me, Ronan said quietly. Alara didn't answer. Alara, I killed him. Her voice was hollow. You defended yourself. I killed him. Ronan pulled over, turned to her. Look at me. She couldn't. Ronan grabbed her chin, forced her to meet his eyes. You did what you had to do. You survived. That's all that matters. Is it? Yes. Alara's eyes burned. I don't feel like myself anymore. Ronan's expression softened. That's because you're not. You're changing, Alara. This world does that. It takes pieces of you and replaces them with something harder. I don't want to be hard. Too late. His thumb brushed her cheek. You already are. Alara pulled away, her chest tight. Where are we going? Ronan started the car again. Somewhere no one will find us. Where's that? His jaw tightened. My family's estate. Alara stared at him. You have family. Had. Ronan's voice was flat. They were all dead. Then why? Because no one knows about it. It's off the grid. Safe. Alara didn't believe him, but she didn't have a choice. The estate appeared out of the fog like a ghost. Tall iron gates, overgrown gardens, a sprawling manor house with dark windows and ivy crawling up the walls. Ronan drove through the gates and stopped in front of the house. Stay close, he said. They climbed out. The air was cold and damp, heavy with the smell of wet earth. Alara followed Ronan to the front door. He pulled out a key, old, tarnished, and unlocked it. Inside, the house was silent. Dust covered everything, furniture draped in white sheets, portraits on the walls, their faces obscured by grime. Ronan moved through the rooms like a man walking through a graveyard. Alara followed, her footsteps echoing. Who lived here? She asked. My parents, my sister. Ronan's voice was tight. A long time ago. What happened to them? Ronan stopped in front of a portrait. A family. A man, a woman, 2 children. The paint was cracked, faded. They were killed, he said quietly, in their beds. While I was away. Alara's breath caught. Rivals. Competitors. Does it matter? Ronan's jaw tightened. I came home to find them all dead, and I swore I'd never let anyone close enough to hurt me again. Alara's chest ached. But you let me close. Ronan turned to her, his eyes dark. I know. Why? He didn't answer. Alara stepped closer. Ronan, the sound of a car engine cut her off. Ronan's entire body tensed. He grabbed her arm, pulled her toward the stairs. Upstairs. Now. What? Move. They ran. Ronan shoved her into a bedroom, locked the door. He moved to the window, looked out. His face went pale. No, he whispered. What? Who is it? Ronan turned to her, his expression stricken. Siobhan. Ilara's stomach dropped. Below, car doors slammed. Voices echoed. Ronan grabbed his gun, checked the clip. Then he looked at Ilara. Whatever happens, he said quietly, don't trust her. Ronan. The front door exploded open. Footsteps thundered through the house. Ronan moved to the door, his gun raised. And Ilara realized with cold, brutal clarity, this was it. The point of no return. They were out of places to run, out of time, and whatever came through that door would decide if they lived. The footsteps stopped outside the door. Ronan's finger rested on the trigger, his entire body coiled like a spring. Ilara pressed herself against the wall, her breath coming in shallow gasps. The silence stretched until it felt like her eardrums would burst. Then Siobhan's voice cut through the quiet, smooth as silk over razor wire. Ronan, darling, I know you're in there. Ronan didn't answer. Come now, don't be rude, we have so much to discuss. Ilara could hear the smile in her voice. It made her skin crawl. Ronan's jaw tightened. He moved to the door, pressed his back against the wall beside it. His eyes found Ilara's across the room. He mouthed one word. Stay. She nodded. I'm not interested in talking, Siobhan, Ronan called out. No? A soft laugh. That's disappointing, especially considering I brought someone you might want to see. Ronan's expression didn't change, but Ilara saw his knuckles whiten on the gun. Who? He asked. Why don't you open the door and find out? Silence. Ilara's heart hammered against her ribs. She could feel sweat sliding down her spine despite the cold. Ronan's eyes narrowed. Then slowly, he reached for the door handle. Don't, Ilara whispered. He looked at her. Something in his gaze made her chest tighten. Resignation, acceptance. He opened the door. Siobhan stood in the hallway, immaculate as always in a tailored coat and heels that clicked against the hardwood. Her auburn hair was pulled back, revealing the sharp angles of her face. Behind her stood 3 men, armed and stone-faced, and between them, held upright by rough hands, was an older man with gray hair and terrified eyes. Ilara's father. The world stopped. Ilara's legs gave out. She caught herself against the wall, her vision swimming. Dad, she breathed. Patrick Vance looked at her, his face pale and drawn. His lip was split, blood dried at the corner of his mouth. Ellie! One of the men backhanded him. The crack echoed through the hallway. Don't touch him! Ilara lunged forward, but Ronan's arm shot out, blocking her. Easy, he murmured. Siobhan's smile widened. How touching. Father and daughter, reunited. Ronan's voice was ice. Let him go. Oh, I don't think so. Siobhan stepped into the room, her heels clicking. You see, Patrick here has been very helpful, haven't you, Patrick? Ilara's father said nothing. He just stared at the floor. What did you do to him? Ilara's voice cracked. Me? Nothing. Siobhan's tone was light, conversational. I simply asked him a few questions, and he answered. Very cooperative, actually. Told me all about his daughter, the gardener's girl who disappeared without a trace, how worried he's been. Ronan's jaw tightened. Get to the point. The point, Siobhan said, turning to face him, is that you've made a terrible mistake, Ronan, keeping this girl alive, hiding her away like some precious secret. It's made people curious, and when people get curious, they start digging. I don't care. You should. Siobhan's smile vanished, because what they found is very interesting. Ronan's entire body went still. Siobhan pulled a folder from her coat, tossed it onto the dusty dresser. Go ahead, look. Ronan didn't move. Look at it, Ronan. His eyes flicked to Ilara, then to the folder. Slowly, he reached for it. Ilara watched him open it, watched his face go pale, watched something shift behind his eyes, shock, then understanding, then something darker. What is it? Ilara whispered. Ronan didn't answer. His hands shook as he stared at the papers. Siobhan's voice was almost gentle. You didn't know, did you? Know what? Alara stepped forward. Ronan, what is she talking about? Ronan looked up. His eyes met hers, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked lost. Your name, he said hoarsely, isn't Alara Vance. The floor tilted. What? Ronan's hand trembled as he held out a document, birth certificate, legal papers, things Alara had never seen. Your name is Alara Corvin, he said. You're the daughter of Marcus and Helena Corvin, one of the most powerful families in Ireland. Alara's breath stopped. That's impossible. Is it? Siobhan's voice was silk. Tell me, Alara, do you remember your childhood before the Ashford estate? Alara's mind raced. She tried to think back, but everything before age 5 was fog. Fragments, a woman's laughter, a big house, then nothing. The Corvins died in a house fire, Ronan continued, his voice hollow. 19 years ago. The entire family, parents, 2 children, everyone. Except, Siobhan said, one child survived. A little girl, 3 years old. She was pulled from the wreckage by a groundskeeper named Patrick Vance. Alara's head snapped toward her father. No. Patrick's eyes filled with tears. Ellie. He took you, Siobhan continued, hid you, raised you as his own, changed your name, kept you invisible. Alara's legs wouldn't hold her anymore. She sank to the floor, her entire world fracturing. Why? Her voice was barely a whisper. Patrick's face crumpled. To protect you. From what? From the people who killed your family. The words hung in the air like smoke. Alara's chest felt crushed. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Ronan's voice cut through the haze. Who ordered the hit? Siobhan's smile returned. That's the really interesting part. She pulled out another document, held it up. A contract, signed and sealed. 20 years old. Ronan stared at it. His face went white. No, he breathed. Oh, yes. Siobhan's eyes glittered. The hit on the Corvin family was ordered by someone very close to you, Ronan. Someone you trusted implicitly. Ronan's hand dropped to his side. The paper fell from his fingers. Your father. The silence was deafening. Alara looked up at Ronan. He stood frozen, his face a mask of stone. Thomas Hale ordered the execution of the Corvin family, Siobhan said. And you know why? Because Marcus Corvin was going to expose him, take down his entire operation, so your father burned them alive. All of them. Or so he thought. Ronan's breathing was harsh, ragged. You're lying. Am I? Siobhan gestured to the papers on the floor. It's all there. Signatures, payment records, witness statements. Your father was a monster, Ronan. But you already knew that, didn't you? Ronan's fists clenched. Shut up. And now, Siobhan continued, her voice dropping to a purr, the little Corvin girl is all grown up and engaged to the son of the man who murdered her family. Isn't that poetic? Alara's stomach lurched. Engaged? Siobhan laughed. Oh, you didn't tell her. How delightful. She turned to Alara. Your dear Ronan has been planning to marry you for weeks now. Secure the Corvin fortune. Legitimize his claim to their empire. Very strategic. Alara's gaze snapped to Ronan. Is that true? Ronan's jaw worked. He didn't answer. Ronan, her voice broke. Is it true? Yes. The word was barely audible. Alara felt like she'd been punched. You knew who I was the whole time. Not at first. When? Her voice rose. When did you know? Ronan's eyes closed. 2 weeks ago. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. 2 weeks, Alara whispered. You knew for 2 weeks and you didn't tell me. I was protecting you. Liar! She scrambled to her feet, her hands shaking. You were protecting yourself, your empire, your goddamn legacy. That's not... Everything you said was a lie. Tears streamed down her face. Everything... Ronan stepped toward her. Alara, please, don't touch me. She backed away, her vision blurring. Don't ever touch me again. Siobhan watched with obvious satisfaction. Well, this is going even better than I hoped. Ronan whirled on her, his face contorted with rage. Get out! Oh, I don't think so. Siobhan's voice hardened. You see, I have a proposition, and you're going to listen. I'm done listening to you. Even if it means Patrick Vance dies right here? Siobhan nodded to her men. One of them pressed a gun to Patrick's temple. Alara's scream caught in her throat. Ronan froze. That's better. Siobhan's smile was cold. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign over the Corvin estate to me. All of it. The assets, the properties, the offshore accounts, everything. And if I refuse? Then Patrick dies. And then Alara dies. And then I kill you anyway and take it all. Siobhan shrugged. Your choice. Ronan's hands curled into fists. You can't access the Corvin fortune without a blood heir. I know. Siobhan's gaze slid to Alara. That's why she's going to sign it over voluntarily. Aren't you, dear? Alara's throat was dry. I don't understand any of this. It's simple, Siobhan said. You're worth approximately 200 million euros, maybe more. The Corvin Empire was vast, and now that you're alive and verified, all of it belongs to you. Alara's head spun. I don't want it. That's irrelevant. Siobhan pulled out another document, set it on the dresser with a pen. Sign here, transfer everything to me, and I'll let you and your father walk away. Don't do it, Ronan said quietly. Alara's laugh was hollow. Why would I listen to you? Because she'll kill you both anyway. Ronan's voice was flat. The second you sign that paper, you're a loose end. Siobhan's smile didn't waver. He's not wrong. But at least this way you get a few more hours, maybe even a day. Doesn't that sound nice? Alara looked at her father, at Ronan, at the woman holding all the cards. She felt something crack inside her chest. No, she said. Siobhan's smile faded. Excuse me? I said no. Alara's voice was stronger now. You want the Corvin fortune? Come and take it. The gun at Patrick's head cocked. Ellie? Patrick's voice broke. I'm not signing anything, Alara said. Her hand stopped shaking. Her breathing steadied. You want to kill us? Then do it. But you're not getting a damn thing from me. Siobhan's eyes narrowed. You're bluffing. Try me. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Siobhan laughed. It was a sharp, ugly sound. Well, you have more spine than I thought. How unfortunate. She nodded to her men. The one holding Patrick raised his gun. Ronan moved. He was faster than Alara thought possible. He grabbed Siobhan, spun her around, pressed his gun to her temple. Let him go, Ronan said quietly, or I paint this room with her brains. The men froze. Siobhan's voice was tight. You won't. Won't I? Ronan's finger tightened on the trigger. I've got nothing left to lose, Siobhan. You made sure of that. If you kill me, they'll kill you. I know. His voice was eerily calm. But you'll still be dead. The standoff stretched. Then one of the men made a choice. He shoved Patrick forward and raised his gun at Ronan. Patrick stumbled. Alara caught him, pulling him behind her. Let her go, Ronan, the man said. This doesn't have to get ugly. It's already ugly. Ronan's arm was iron around Siobhan's throat. Tell them to drop their weapons. I don't think so. Ronan pressed the gun harder against her temple. Now. Siobhan's breathing was shallow. Do it. The men hesitated. Then slowly they lowered their guns. Kick them away, Ronan ordered. They did. Ronan backed toward the door, dragging Siobhan with him. Alara, Patrick, move! Alara grabbed her father's arm, pulled him toward the hallway. They made it 3 steps before all hell broke loose. One of the men lunged. Ronan fired. The man dropped. Siobhan twisted, slamming her elbow into Ronan's ribs. He grunted, his grip loosening. She broke free. The other men grabbed their guns. Ronan shoved Alara and Patrick toward the stairs. Run! They ran. Gunfire exploded behind them. Alara heard shouting, the crash of furniture. She didn't look back. They hit the stairs, stumbled down. Patrick's legs gave out halfway. Alara caught him, hauled him up. Come on, she gasped. Almost there. They burst through the front door into cold night air. Ronan's car was still there. Alara pulled the door open, shoved her father inside. Where's Ronan? Patrick wheezed. Alara looked back at the house. Gunfire still echoed from inside. Her chest tightened. Ellie, we have to go. Not without him. He's not coming. Alara's hands shook on the doorframe. Every instinct screamed at her to run. to save herself, to leave him, but she couldn't. She turned, started back toward the house. Patrick grabbed her arm. Ellie, no. I have to. He lied to you. He used you. I know, Alara pulled free. But I'm not leaving him. She ran, back through the door, up the stairs, following the sound of gunfire. She found Ronan in the hallway, pressed behind an overturned bookshelf. Blood stained his shoulder. His gun was empty. Two of Siobhan's men advanced from the other end of the hall. Alara didn't think. She grabbed one of the fallen guns from the floor, raised it, fired. The shot went wide, but it was enough. The men dove for cover. Ronan's head snapped toward her. What the hell are you doing? Saving your ass. Alara fired again. This time she didn't miss. One man went down, the other returned fire. Bullets tore through the wall beside Alara's head. She dropped, her ears ringing. Ronan grabbed her, pulled her behind the bookshelf. You should have run. Probably. She handed him the gun. But I'm an idiot. Ronan's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Then he leaned out and fired. The last man dropped. Silence fell. Ronan sagged against the wall, his breathing labored. Blood seeped through his shirt. You're hit, Alara said. I'm fine. You're bleeding. I said I'm fine. He pushed himself up, grimacing. Where's your father? In the car. Good. Let's go. They made it halfway down the stairs before Siobhan appeared. She stood in the doorway, gun raised, her face twisted with fury. You ruined everything, she hissed. Ronan stepped in front of Alara. It was already ruined. I gave you a chance, a clean way out. I don't want your chances. Siobhan's finger tightened on the trigger. Then die. The gun went off. Ronan jerked backward. Alara screamed. He hit the stairs hard, tumbling. Alara lunged for him, caught his arm. Blood spread across his chest. No, no, no! Alara pressed her hands against the wound. Stay with me, Ronan, stay with me. His eyes were unfocused. Alara, don't talk. Just hold on. Siobhan's footsteps approached. Slow, deliberate. How touching, she murmured. True love. Pity it's about to end. She raised the gun. Alara looked up at her. Do it! Siobhan's eyebrow arched. What? Pull the trigger. Alara's voice was flat. Kill me, but you'll never get the money. Never. I'll make sure of it. You're bluffing. Am I? Alara's laugh was bitter. I just found out I'm the heir to a fortune built on blood. That my entire life is a lie. That the man her voice caught. That everyone I trusted used me. So go ahead, kill me. At least I won't have to live with it. Siobhan stared at her. Then she lowered the gun. You're more trouble than you're worth, she said. Both of you. She turned and walked away. Alara didn't watch her go. She just held Ronan, her hands slick with his blood. Hey, she whispered. Look at me. Ronan's eyes found hers. They were glassy, distant. You're going to be okay, Alara said. You hear me? You're going to be fine. Liar, he breathed. I learned from the best. His mouth quirked. Lara, don't. She pressed harder against the wound. Don't say goodbye. Not yet. I'm sorry. I know. I should have told you. I know. I never meant... He coughed, blood flecking his lips. I never meant for this. I know. Tears streamed down her face. I know, Ronan. His hand found hers, weak, trembling. Run, he whispered. Not without you. Alaris, I said no. She pulled him up, draped his arm over her shoulders. He was heavy, dead weight, but she didn't care. She half dragged, half carried him down the stairs, out the door, to the car. Patrick scrambled out, helped her load Ronan into the back seat. Hospital, Alara gasped. Now! Patrick got behind the wheel. The engine roared to life. They tore down the driveway, gravel spraying. Alara sat in the back, Ronan's head in her lap. She pressed her jacket against his chest, trying to slow the bleeding. Stay with me, she murmured. Please, just stay with me. Ronan's eyes fluttered. Alara, I'm here. I'm right here. His hand found hers, squeezed, then went limp. No, Alara's voice cracked. No, no, no. Ronan, wake up. Wake up. His chest still rose and fell, barely. Patrick's voice was tight. How far to the hospital? 10 minutes. He doesn't have 10 minutes. Alara looked down at Ronan's pale face, at the blood soaking through her jacket, at the way his breathing had turned shallow, ragged, and she made a decision. Pull over, she said. What? Pull over, now. Patrick slammed on the brakes. Alara climbed out, pulled her phone from her pocket. Her hands shook so hard she could barely dial. The line connected. This is Alara Corvin, she said. Her voice was ice. I need an ambulance, I need a team, and I need Victor Dre. Patrick's head snapped around. Ellie, what are you I'm making a deal. She looked down at Ronan, her jaw tight. The only one I have left. The voice on the other end spoke, calm, measured. What are you offering? Alara's chest felt hollow. Everything. In exchange for? His life. A pause. We'll be there in 5 minutes. The line went dead. Alara sank to her knees beside the car, her hands in her hair. Patrick crouched beside her. Who is Victor Dre? Alara's laugh was hollow. The man who killed my family. Patrick's face went white. Ellie. He's the only one with the resources to save Ronan. The only one who can protect us from Siobhan. She looked at her father, tears streaming down her face. And the only one who wants the Corvin fortune more than anyone. You can't trust him. I know. Alara's voice was dead. But I'm out of options. 5 minutes later, black SUVs appeared. Men in suits stepped out. Efficient. Professional. They loaded Ronan onto a stretcher, worked on him with practiced precision. And from the lead vehicle, a man emerged. Tall, silver-haired, with eyes that looked like they'd seen empires rise and fall. Victor Dre. He approached Alara slowly, his hands in his pockets. Miss Corvin, he said. His voice was smooth, cultured. We finally meet. Alara's hands curled into fists. Save him. Then we'll talk. Victor's smile was thin. Of course. But you understand, once we begin this arrangement, there's no going back. I understand. Your entire inheritance, your name, your legacy, all of it becomes mine. I don't care. Victor studied her, then nodded. Very well. He gestured to his men. Take them both. The girl's father, too. Patrick grabbed Alara's arm. Ellie, we can still run. No. Alara's voice was hollow. We can't. She climbed into the SUV. Ronan was already inside, hooked to machines that beeped and hissed. A medic worked over him, moving with quiet urgency. Alara took his hand. It was cold. Victor slid into the seat across from her. You're making the right choice, he said. Alara didn't answer. She just stared at Ronan's pale face, watching his chest rise and fall. She'd saved him, but she'd sold herself to do it. And as the SUV pulled away into the night, Alara realized with brutal clarity, the girl who'd spent her life invisible was about to become the most visible person in Ireland, the Corvin heir, the key to an empire, and a prisoner of the man who'd destroyed everything she'd never known she had. She'd chosen survival, but survival came with a price, and she was about to pay it in full. The private medical facility was nothing like a hospital. No waiting rooms, no fluorescent lights, just polished marble floors, art on the walls, and the kind of silence that money bought. Alara sat in a leather chair outside the operating room, her hands still stained with Ronan's blood. She'd tried to wash them 3 times, but the rust-colored streaks remained, dried into the lines of her palms like a brand. Patrick stood by the window, his face drawn. He hadn't spoken since they'd arrived, hadn't looked at her. Victor Dre sat across from Alara, perfectly composed. He'd removed his coat, revealing a tailored suit that probably cost more than the Ashford estate. A guard stood behind him, silent and watchful. The surgeon is excellent, Victor said. His voice was conversational, like they were discussing the weather. Former military, worked in combat zones. If anyone can save Mr. Hale, it's him. Alara didn't respond. She just stared at the door, willing it to open. You're wondering if you made the right choice, Victor continued. I'm wondering if he's going to live. Of course. Victor leaned back, crossing his legs. But you're also wondering what happens next. What I'll do with you, with your fortune. Alara's gaze finally shifted to him. You killed my family. Victor's expression didn't change. Yes. The casual admission made her stomach turn. Why? Her voice was hoarse. Because your father was going to destroy me. Victor's tone was matter of fact. Marcus Corvin had evidence, recordings, documents, enough to dismantle everything I'd built, so I eliminated the threat. He had a family. So did I. Victor's eyes hardened. Your father didn't care about that when he threatened to take everything from me, so I took everything from him first. Alara's hands curled into fists. You burned them alive. I gave the order. Other men carried it out. He tilted his head. Does the distinction matter to you? Yes. Why? Because it means you're a coward. Victor's smile was thin. Perhaps, but I'm a living coward. Your father is dead. Which of us was smarter? Alara wanted to lunge at him, wanted to claw that smug expression off his face. But she stayed seated, her nails digging into her palms. What do you want from me? She asked quietly. I already told you. The Corvin estate, all of it. And after you have it? Victor's gaze was steady. You're free to go. I don't believe you. I don't need you to. He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. Alara, I'm not a monster. I'm a businessman. You're only valuable to me as long as you control the Corvin assets. Once those are transferred, you're irrelevant. Then why not just kill me? Because that would be wasteful. Victor's tone was almost gentle. You're young, resilient. You could build a life somewhere else, far from Dublin, far from this world. Isn't that what you want? Alara's throat tightened. I don't know what I want anymore. Then let me make it simple. Victor pulled a document from his briefcase, set it on the table between them. Sign this, transfer the assets, and when Ronan Hale wakes up, if he wakes up, you both walk away. Clean slate. Alara stared at the paper. And if I don't sign? Then he dies. And so do you. Victor's voice was calm. I don't make threats, Alara. I make promises. The door to the operating room opened. The surgeon stepped out, pulling off his gloves. His scrubs were stained dark. Alara was on her feet before she could think. Is he alive? The surgeon said. Barely. The bullet missed his heart by centimeters, but he's lost a lot of blood. The next 24 hours are critical. Alara's legs almost gave out. Patrick caught her arm, steadied her. Can I see him? She asked. The surgeon hesitated. He's sedated. He won't know you're there. I don't care. The surgeon looked at Victor. Victor nodded. 5 minutes, the surgeon said. Alara followed him into the recovery room. Ronan lay on a hospital bed, tubes running from his arms, machines beeping steadily. His face was pale, almost gray. His chest rose and fell in shallow movements. Alara approached slowly, her heart hammering. She reached for his hand, hesitated, then took it anyway. His skin was cold. You're an idiot, she whispered. You know that? Ronan didn't answer, didn't move. Alara's eyes burned. You should have told me about everything, about who I was, what you were planning. You should have... Her voice broke. You should have let me make my own choice. The machines beeped, steady, indifferent. Alara squeezed his hand. But I'm glad you didn't die, so we're not even. She leaned down, pressed her forehead against his. Don't you dare leave me here alone, she breathed. Not after everything. The door opened behind her. Time's up, the surgeon said. Alara straightened, released Ronan's hand. She walked out without looking back. Victor was waiting in the hallway. He held out the document and a pen. Now? Alara's voice was hollow. Now. She took the pen, stared at the signature line. Her entire life distilled into one piece of paper. Everything she'd never known she had. Everything she'd just discovered. Gone. But Ronan would live. She signed. Victor took the document, examined it, then smiled. Congratulations, Miss Corvin. You're now officially penniless. I was always penniless, Alara said. This changes nothing, doesn't it? Victor tucked the document into his briefcase. You just gave up 200 million euros. Most people would call that significant. Most people aren't me. Victor's laugh was soft. No, they're not. He stood, buttoned his coat. My men will take you and your father to a safe house. You'll stay there until Ronan is stable enough to travel. Then you're both free to go. Just like that? Just like that. Victor paused at the door. One piece of advice, Ilara. Don't come back to Dublin. Don't try to reclaim what you've lost. Move on. Build a new life. Because if I see you again, if you become a problem, I won't hesitate to finish what I started 19 years ago. Ilara met his gaze. Understood. Victor nodded and left. Patrick approached, his face etched with worry. Ellie, don't! Ilara held up a hand. Whatever you're about to say, just don't. You just gave away everything. I gave away money I never had, for a life that was never real. She looked at him, her eyes hard. You lied to me. For 20 years. So forgive me if I'm not interested in your opinion right now. Patrick flinched. I was protecting you. By making me invisible? By hiding who I was? Yes. His voice cracked. Because if they knew you were alive, they would have killed you. Victor Dre, Siobhan, all of them. I did what I had to do. Ilara's chest ached. I know. But that doesn't make it hurt less. They stood in silence. Then Patrick reached for her, pulled her into his arms. Ilara resisted for a moment. Then she broke. She sobbed into his shoulder, all the fear and anger and exhaustion pouring out. Patrick held her, his own tears falling into her hair. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry, Ellie. I know, she choked out. I know. The safe house was a penthouse overlooking the river, floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture, a kitchen stocked with food they didn't touch, 2 guards stationed outside the door. Ilara stood at the window, watching the city lights blur through her tears. It was almost dawn. She hadn't slept, couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ronan's blood, felt the weight of the gun in her hand, heard Siobhan's cold laughter. Patrick had finally fallen asleep on the couch, exhausted. Ilara envied him. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out, her heart jumping. A text from an unknown number. He's awake. Ilara's breath caught. She grabbed her jacket, headed for the door. One of the guards stepped in front of her. Miss Corvin, you're not permitted to leave. I don't care. Mr. Dre's orders. Are you going to shoot me? Ilara's voice was ice. Because that's the only way you're stopping me. The guard hesitated. Ilara pushed past him, hit the elevator button. The guard spoke into his radio. She's leaving. Do you want me to, He listened, then lowered the radio. Go ahead. Ilara didn't thank him. She just stepped into the elevator and watched the doors close. Bob. Ronan was sitting up when she arrived. Barely. His face was still pale, his movements slow, but his eyes were open, aware. He looked up when she entered. You're alive, Ilara said. Disappointed? Furious. Ronan's mouth quirked. Fair. Ilara crossed the room, stopped at the foot of the bed. How do you feel? Like I got shot. Good. You deserve it. Also fair. They stared at each other. I signed the papers, Ilara said. The Corvin estate is Victor's now. Ronan's expression didn't change. Why? Because he said he'd let you live. That's a terrible deal. I know. Ilara's voice wavered. But I couldn't let you die. Ronan's gaze softened. Ilara, don't. She held up a hand. Don't apologize. Don't explain. Just, her throat tightened. Just tell me one thing. Did you ever actually care, or was it all strategy? Ronan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, at first it was strategy. I found out who you were, saw an opportunity, the Corvin fortune, the legitimacy, everything I needed to solidify my position. Ilara's chest ached. But then, Ronan continued, his voice rough, you became something else, something I didn't plan for, and I started caring more about keeping you alive than about what you were worth. When? Ilara whispered. When did it change? Ronan met her eyes. The night in the cabin, when you ran into the woods. I thought you were gone, and He exhaled. It broke something in me. Ilara's hands shook. That doesn't make it okay. I know. You lied to me. I know. You used me. I know. Ronan's jaw tightened. And I'll spend the rest of my life regretting it, but I can't change it. All I can do is tell you the truth now. Alara looked away. What truth? That I love you. Ronan's voice was barely audible. And I don't deserve you, and you should walk away and never look back. Alara's vision blurred. But if you stay, Ronan said quietly, I swear I'll spend every day proving I'm worth it. Alara's laugh was hollow. You're not. I know. You're a liar and a manipulator and I know. Alara turned to face him, tears streaming down her face. So why can't I hate you? Ronan's expression cracked. I don't know. They stared at each other across the space between them. Then Alara crossed it. She climbed onto the bed, careful of his injuries, and kissed him. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, angry, full of everything she couldn't say. Ronan's hands found her face, pulled her closer. He kissed her like he was drowning, and she was air. When they broke apart, both of them were breathing hard. This doesn't mean I forgive you, Alara whispered. I know. Or that I trust you. I know. But Her voice caught. I can't lose you. Ronan rested his forehead against hers. You won't. Promise me. I promise. The door burst open. Victor Dre stood in the doorway, flanked by guards. His expression was thunderous. Get away from him, he said. Alara didn't move. No. That wasn't a request. Victor stepped into the room. You signed the papers. Our deal is done. It's time to leave. I'm not going anywhere. Victor's eyes narrowed. You don't have a choice. Actually, a new voice said. She does. Everyone turned. Siobhan stood in the hallway, gun in hand. Behind her, 3 men, all armed. Victor's face went white. How did you get in here? I own half your security team, Victor. Siobhan's smile was cold. Did you really think I wouldn't find out about your little arrangement? This doesn't concern you. Doesn't it? Siobhan stepped into the room. The Corvin fortune concerns everyone, and I'm not about to let you walk away with it. Victor's hand moved toward his coat. Siobhan's gun snapped up. Don't, she said. Victor froze. Siobhan's gaze slid to Alara. Hello again, darling. Miss me? Alara's heart hammered. She moved in front of Ronan, blocking him. Touching, Siobhan said, but pointless. You signed over the estate to Victor, which means I'll be taking it from him, and unfortunately, I can't have any loose ends. She raised the gun. Alara's mind raced. No weapons. No escape. Just a room full of people who wanted her dead. Then Ronan's hand found hers. He squeezed once, and Alara understood. She dove. Ronan lunged from the bed, ripping tubes free. He tackled Siobhan as her gun went off. The bullet punched through the window. Glass exploded. Victor's guards drew weapons. Siobhan's men fired. The room erupted into chaos. Alara hit the floor, rolled behind the bed. Gunfire roared above her. Ronan and Siobhan grappled on the floor. Blood spread across his bandages, but he didn't stop, didn't slow. He got his hands around her throat. Siobhan's eyes bulged. She clawed at his face, drew blood. Ronan didn't let go. One of Victor's guards went down, then another. Victor dove behind a chair, shouting into his phone. Alara saw Siobhan's gun on the floor, 3 feet away. She lunged for it. Her fingers closed around the grip just as one of Siobhan's men spotted her. He swung his weapon toward her. Alara fired first. The man dropped. She turned, saw Ronan still choking Siobhan. Her struggles were weakening. Then her hand found something in her coat. A knife. She drove it into Ronan's side. Ronan screamed, his grip loosening. Siobhan shoved him off, gasping. Alara fired. The bullet caught Siobhan in the shoulder. She spun, hit the wall. Alara fired again. This time Siobhan didn't get back up. Silence fell. Alara stood, the gun shaking in her hand. Bodies littered the floor. Victor cowered behind the chair, his suit splattered with blood. Ronan lay on the floor, the knife still buried in his side, his breathing ragged. Alara dropped the gun, ran to him. No, no, no! She pressed her hands against the wound. You're okay. You're okay. Ronan's laugh was wet. Liar. Shut up. Tears streamed down her face. Just shut up. She looked at Victor. Help him. Victor didn't move. I said help him. Why should I? Victor stood slowly, his hands raised. He's a liability. You both are. Alara stared at him. We had a deal. The deal was predicated on you leaving quietly. You didn't. Victor's voice was calm. So now I have to clean up the mess. He pulled a gun from his coat. Alara's stomach dropped. I'm sorry, Alara, Victor said. Truly. But you understand. He aimed at Ronan. Alara threw herself over Ronan's body. No! Victor's finger tightened on the trigger. Then the door exploded. Armed men poured into the room. Not Victor's, not Siobhan's. Different uniforms, different weapons. At the front, a woman with iron-gray hair and a badge. Nobody move, she shouted. Victor's gun clattered to the floor. He raised his hands. The woman approached Alara, holstered her weapon. Alara Corvin? Alara nodded, too shocked to speak. I'm Detective Inspector Walsh. We've been tracking Victor Dre for 3 years, and thanks to an anonymous tip, we finally have enough to bring him in. Anonymous tip? Alara's voice was hoarse. Walsh nodded to one of her officers. He pulled out a tablet, showed her a screen. It was footage. Security cameras, recordings, documents, all of Victor's crimes, everything. And at the bottom, a timestamp from 3 hours ago. Who sent this? Alara whispered. Walsh's expression was grim. We don't know. But whoever it was just handed us the case of the decade. Victor was pulled to his feet, cuffed. He looked at Alara as they led him past. This isn't over, he said quietly. Yes, Alara said. It is. They dragged him away. Walsh crouched beside Ronan. We need medics, now. Paramedics rushed in, loaded Ronan onto a stretcher. Alara tried to follow, but Walsh stopped her. I need to ask you some questions. Later, Alara said. Please. Walsh hesitated, then nodded. Go. Alara ran after the stretcher, climbed into the ambulance. Ronan's eyes were closed. His skin was ashen. A paramedic worked over him, muttering urgently. Is he? Alara couldn't finish. Pulse is weak, the paramedic said. We need to move. Fast. The ambulance tore through the streets, sirens wailing. Alara held Ronan's hand, whispering things she'd never said out loud. Stay with me, please. I can't do this without you. Ronan's fingers twitched. His eyes cracked open, found hers. Alara, he rasped. I'm here. The tip. What? I sent it. Ronan's breathing was labored. Before everything. Insurance, in case. His eyes closed. The paramedic shouted something Alara couldn't hear over the roar in her ears. The ambulance screamed through an intersection. And Alara realized Ronan had planned this. All of it. The evidence. The police. The endgame. He'd been 10 steps ahead the entire time. Even dying, he'd been protecting her. The ambulance doors flew open. Hospital staff swarmed. They pulled Ronan away, disappeared behind swinging doors. Alara stood alone in the hallway, her hands covered in his blood for the second time in 12 hours. And she made a decision. She wasn't running anymore. She wasn't hiding. If Ronan lived, when he lived, they were ending this. All of it. Siobhan, Victor, every threat, every enemy. She was done being the scared girl in the garden, done being invisible. The Corvin heir had been asleep for 19 years. Now she was awake, and she was done playing defense. The surgery took 6 hours. Alara sat in the waiting room, her father beside her, neither of them speaking. The hospital was public this time. Real doctors, real protocols, real consequences. Detective Inspector Walsh had stationed 2 officers outside the operating room. Protection, she'd said. But Alara knew better. They were guards. Witnesses. Making sure no one disappeared. Patrick had tried to get her to eat, to sleep, to do anything but stare at the operating room doors with eyes that had long since run out of tears. She'd refused. She just sat there, her hands folded in her lap, still stained with Ronan's blood. She hadn't washed them, didn't want to. Not yet. When the surgeon finally emerged, pulling off his mask, Alara was on her feet before he could speak. He's alive, the surgeon said. His voice was tired but steady. The knife missed the major organs, but he's lost significant blood. Again, his body is under immense strain. The next 48 hours will determine whether he pulls through. Alara's knees buckled. Patrick caught her. Can I see him? She asked. The surgeon hesitated. He's in ICU, sedated. He won't wake for at least 12 hours. I don't care. The surgeon looked at Walsh. She nodded. 5 minutes, he said. Elara followed him through sterile corridors that smelled of antiseptic and defeat. The ICU was quiet, machines humming their mechanical lullabies. Ronan lay in the second bed, tubes and wires connecting him to machines that kept him tethered to life. His face was gray, his breathing shallow. Elara approached slowly, her chest so tight she could barely breathe. She pulled a chair beside the bed, sat down, and took his hand. It was still cold. "You're an idiot," she whispered. "I told you that already. But you're also—" Her voice caught. "You're the only person who ever made me feel like I mattered. Even when you were lying, even when you were using me, you saw me." The machines beeped. Steady, indifferent. Elara squeezed his hand. "So you don't get to die. You hear me? You don't get to save me and then leave. That's not how this works." She leaned forward, pressed her lips to his forehead. "Come back to me," she breathed. "Please." The door opened. Walsh stepped in. "Time's up, Miss Corvin." Elara didn't move. "Miss Corvin? I know." Elara stood, released Ronan's hand. She looked at him one more time, memorizing the rise and fall of his chest, then walked out. Walsh followed her into the hallway. "We need to talk." "About what?" "Everything." Walsh pulled out a tablet, showed her a screen filled with files. "Victor Dre is in custody. We have enough evidence to put him away for life. Multiple counts of murder, racketeering, money laundering. The works." Elara's stomach twisted. "Good. But there's a problem." Walsh's expression was grim. "Siobhan Brennan is dead, shot twice, and ballistics match the gun in your hand." Elara's breath stopped. "I'm not arresting you," Walsh said quickly. "Self-defense is clear, but you need to make a formal statement. Tell us everything, from the beginning." Elara looked at her father. He nodded. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'll tell you everything." Objects. The interrogation room was small and cold. Elara sat across from Walsh and another detective, a recorder between them. Patrick waited outside with a lawyer Walsh had provided. Someone clean, she'd promised. Someone who wouldn't disappear. "Start from the night you witnessed Marcus Ashford's murder," Walsh said. Elara took a breath. Then she talked. She told them everything. The garden, the gunshot. Ronan pulling her into the car, the weeks in the apartment, the cabin, the motel. Finding out who she really was. She told them about Siobhan's threats, Victor's deal, the gunfight. She didn't cry, didn't stumble, just laid it out like evidence on a table. When she finished, Walsh sat back. "That's quite a story. It's the truth." "I believe you." Walsh tapped the tablet. "And it corroborates the evidence we've collected. The recordings Ronan Hale sent us document years of criminal activity. Victor Dre, Siobhan Brennan, dozens of others. It's the biggest case this department has seen in 20 years. "What happens now?" Elara asked. "You go home." Walsh's expression softened. "You're not a suspect, you're a witness. And once Ronan Hale is stable, we'll need his statement too. But for now, you're free to go." Elara stood on shaking legs. "What about the Corvin estate?" Walsh frowned. "What about it?" "I signed it over to Victor. Does that stand?" "A contract signed under duress?" Walsh shook her head. "No, that's void. The estate reverts to you, or it will once the courts sort through the mess." Elara's chest felt hollow. "I don't want it." "That's your choice, but legally, it's yours." Elara nodded numbly and walked out. Patrick was waiting. He pulled her into his arms without a word. Elara let him hold her, her face pressed against his shoulder. "It's over," he murmured. "It's finally over." But Elara knew better. It wasn't over. Not yet. 3 days later, Ronan woke up. Elara was there when it happened. She'd barely left the hospital, sleeping in the chair beside his bed, eating whatever the nurses brought her. Patrick had gone home to rest, but Elara wouldn't. She was reading a book she wasn't absorbing when Ronan's fingers twitched. Her head snapped up. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused. "Ronan?" Her voice cracked. He blinked, slowly. Then his gaze found hers. "Hey," he rasped. Elara's laugh was half a sob. Hey, you're still here. Where else would I be? Ronan's mouth quirked. Smart answer. Alara pressed the call button for the nurse, then leaned closer. How do you feel? Like I got stabbed. You did. Twice. Overachiever. He tried to sit up, winced, and sank back down. What happened? After Victor's in custody. Siobhan's dead. And you? Alara's throat tightened. You sent the evidence to the police. You planned the whole thing. Ronan's eyes closed. Had to. It was the only way. You could have told me. Would you have let me do it if I had? Alara didn't answer. Ronan's hand found hers, weak, trembling. I'm sorry. For everything. For lying. For using you. For... Stop. Alara squeezed his hand. Just stop. But you saved my life, Ronan. Multiple times. You gave up everything to protect me, so maybe... She swallowed hard. Maybe we're even. Ronan's gaze searched hers. Are we? I don't know. Alara's voice was raw, but I want to find out. A nurse bustled in, checked Ronan's vitals, made notes. When she left, the silence felt heavier. What happens now? Ronan asked quietly. Alara looked at him. At the man who'd destroyed her life and saved it in the same breath. I don't know, she admitted, but I'm not running anymore. Good. Ronan's smile was tired. Because I'm too weak to chase you. Alara laughed despite herself. You're an idiot. You've mentioned that. They sat in silence, hands intertwined, watching the Dublin sky turn pink through the window. For the first time in weeks, Alara felt something close to peace. It wouldn't last. She knew that. There would be trials, testimonies, questions she didn't have answers to. But for now, this was enough. Two weeks later, Alara stood outside the ruins of the Corvin estate. The fire had happened 19 years ago, but the scars remained. Blackened stone, collapsed walls, gardens overtaken by wild growth. Patrick stood beside her, his face drawn. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. Alara stepped through the rusted gates. The main house was a skeleton, roof gone, windows shattered, but the bones remained. She could see what it had been, grand, sprawling, built to last generations. Her family had died here. She walked through the rooms, her footsteps echoing. In the foyer, she found a portrait half burned. A family, mother, father, 2 children. She stared at the faces, searching for recognition. Nothing came. These were strangers, people she'd never known, but they were also her blood. Patrick approached quietly. Do you remember any of it? No? Alara's voice was flat. Nothing before you found me. Maybe that's a blessing. Maybe. She looked at him. Why did you keep me? Patrick's eyes filled. Because you were innocent and terrified. And I couldn't just leave you. You could have turned me in, let the authorities handle it. They would have put you in the system, or worse, given you back to whoever wanted you dead. Patrick's voice cracked. I couldn't let that happen. Alara's chest ached. So you gave up your life for me. I gained a daughter. Patrick's smile was sad. I'd do it again. Alara pulled him into a hug. Thank you, she whispered, for everything. They stood there, in the ruins of her past, holding on to each other. When they finally pulled apart, Alara looked at the estate one more time. I'm selling it, she said. Patrick blinked. What? All of it, the estate, the properties, everything. Alara's voice was steady. I don't want this legacy. I don't want the blood money or the empire built on lies. I want... She paused. I want to start over, on my own terms. What will you do with the money? Alara thought about it. Something good. Something that actually helps people. I don't know what yet, but not this. Patrick nodded slowly. Your parents would be proud. You don't know that. I do. His voice was firm. Because you're nothing like the people who killed them. And that's what matters. Alara looked at the portrait again, at the strangers who'd given her life. Goodbye, she whispered. Then she turned and walked away. Bahad. Ronan was discharged 3 weeks after the stabbing. He moved slowly, still healing, but his color had returned. His strength, too. Alara picked him up from the hospital, drove him to a small flat she'd rented on the outskirts of Dublin. "This is yours?" he asked, looking around the sparse furniture. "Ours," Alara corrected. "If you want it." Ronan's gaze sharpened. "What are you saying?" Alara set his bag down, turned to face him. "I'm saying I'm tired of running, tired of hiding. I want to build something real, something that's ours, and I want you to be part of it. Alara, I know you're not perfect. I know you've done terrible things, but so have I now." Her voice was steady. "And I'd rather build a life with someone who knows what darkness looks like than pretend it doesn't exist." Ronan crossed the room slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. "Are you sure?" he asked quietly. "No." Alara's laugh was shaky. "But I'm choosing it anyway." Ronan's hands framed her face, his touch gentle. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not." Alara leaned into his touch. "But you're stuck with me." Ronan kissed her, soft, reverent, like she was something precious he was afraid to break. When they pulled apart, his forehead rested against hers. "I love you," he murmured. "I know I've said it before, but I need you to know. I mean it. Every word." Alara's eyes burned. "I know. Do you?" He hesitated. "Do you love me?" Alara was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I don't know yet, but I want to find out." Ronan's smile was sad. "That's fair. Give me time," Alara said, "and maybe I'll get there." "I've got nothing but time." Ronan's thumb brushed her cheek. "As long as you're here, I can wait." They stood there, wrapped in each other, the afternoon light streaming through the windows. Outside, Dublin hummed its familiar song. Cars, voices. Life continuing despite everything. And for the first time since that night in the garden, Alara felt like she could breathe. 6 months later, Alara stood in front of a crowd of reporters. The press conference had been Walsh's idea. Close the case publicly. Give the victims' families closure. Show that justice had been served. Alara had agreed, but only on her terms. She wore a simple black dress, no makeup, no jewelry, just herself. The cameras flashed as she stepped up to the microphone. "My name is Alara Corvin," she said. Her voice was steady. 6 months ago, I discovered that my entire life was a lie. That the man I called father was actually the man who saved me from a fire that killed my family. That I was the heir to a fortune built on blood and violence. And that the people responsible for my family's death were still out there, still operating, still destroying lives. The room was silent. Victor Dre orchestrated the murder of my parents and my brother. He burned them alive to protect his empire. And for 19 years, he got away with it. Alara's hands gripped the podium. But not anymore. Victor Dre has been sentenced to life in prison. His assets have been seized, his network dismantled, and every person who helped him is facing justice. A reporter raised her hand. "What about the Corvin fortune? What will you do with it?" Alara had expected the question. "I'm donating it," she said. "All of it. To organizations that support victims of violent crime. To shelters for women and children fleeing abuse. To programs that help people rebuild their lives after trauma." She paused. "My family's legacy was violence. I'm making it something else." Another reporter stood. "And Ronan Hale? There are rumors you're in a relationship with him. How do you reconcile that with his criminal past?" Alara's jaw tightened. Ronan Hale provided the evidence that brought down Victor Dre. He risked his life to expose a network that had operated with impunity for decades. He's cooperating fully with authorities and has agreed to testify in every trial. He's not perfect, but he's trying to do better, and that's all any of us can do. She didn't elaborate, didn't defend, just stated facts. "One more question," Walsh interjected. A young man in the back stood. "Do you regret any of it, learning the truth?" Alara thought about the garden, the fear, the blood, the lies, about Ronan, about herself. "No," she said finally. "Because ignorance isn't safety. It's just a prettier cage, and I'd rather live in the truth, however ugly, than hide in a lie." The room erupted with questions. Walsh stepped in, thanked everyone, and led Alara away. Outside, Ronan was waiting. He leaned against the car, hands in his pockets, watching her approach. "How'd it go?" he asked. "I didn't cry." "That's a win." Alara smiled despite herself. "They asked about you." "What did you say?" "The truth." Ronan's expression softened. "Which is?" "That you're trying." Alara stepped closer. "And that's enough." Ronan pulled her into his arms. She went willingly, pressing her face against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "Where do you want to go?" he murmured. Alara thought about it, about Dublin, about the estate, about all the places that held ghosts. "Somewhere new," she said. "Somewhere we can start over." "Any place in mind?" "Not yet." Alara pulled back, looked up at him. "But we'll figure it out." Ronan's smile was genuine. "Yeah, we will." They climbed into the car. Ronan drove, no destination in mind, just following the road out of the city. Alara watched Dublin disappear in the rearview mirror, the place that had defined her, confined her, nearly destroyed her. She didn't feel sad. She felt free. "Do you think we'll ever be normal?" she asked quietly. Ronan glanced at her. "Define normal." "I don't know. Boring, predictable, safe." "God, I hope not." Ronan's grin was crooked. "Normal sounds awful." Alara laughed. "You're impossible. You like it." Unfortunately. They drove in comfortable silence, the countryside opening up around them. Green fields, stone walls, sky so wide it felt endless. "Ronan?" Alara said after a while. "Yeah?" "I think I'm getting there." He looked at her. "Getting where?" "To loving you." Alara's voice was soft. "I'm not there yet, but I can see it. And that's something." Ronan's hand found hers, threaded their fingers together. "That's everything," he said quietly. Alara squeezed his hand, looked out at the horizon. The girl who'd spent her life invisible was gone. In her place was someone new, someone scarred, someone stronger, someone who'd walked through fire and come out the other side. She didn't know what the future held, didn't know if she and Ronan would make it, didn't know if the past would ever stop haunting her. But she knew one thing: she was done being afraid. The gardener's daughter had died the night she saw the blood. Alara Corvin had risen from the ashes, and this time the rules weren't written by fear or legacy or men who thought they owned her. They were hers, and she was just getting started. 5 years later. Alara stood on the balcony of a small house overlooking the sea. Not the Irish Sea, something warmer, calmer. Spain, Ronan had suggested. Somewhere no one knew their names. They'd bought the house with what little remained after the donations. It was small, modest, nothing like the estates or penthouses. But it was theirs. Inside she could hear Ronan making dinner, badly. He'd never learned to cook, probably never would. Alara smiled. Her phone buzzed. A message from Patrick. A photo of him in his new garden. He'd moved to Cork, started a landscaping business. He looked happy, lighter. She texted back, "Looks beautiful, proud of you." His response was immediate. "Right back at you, Ellie." Alara set the phone down, looked out at the water. They'd testified in 17 trials over 3 years. Watched Victor Dre get sentenced. Watched his empire crumble. Watched the people he'd hurt finally get justice. It hadn't been easy. The nightmares still came. The scars, physical and otherwise, still ached, but they'd survived. Ronan stepped onto the balcony, 2 glasses of wine in hand. He passed her one. "Dinner's ready," he said. "Well, ready-ish." "Is it on fire?" "Only a little." Alara laughed. "I'll get the extinguisher." Ronan caught her hand, pulled her back. "Wait." She turned. He looked at her, his eyes soft. "I love you." Alara's chest warmed. "I know." "Do you—" He hesitated. "Do you love me?" She'd said it before, many times over the past 5 years, but it never stopped meaning something when he asked. "Yes," she said, simply, truly. "I love you." Ronan's smile was worth every scar. He kissed her, gentle and sure, and Alara kissed him back. When they pulled apart, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and red. Come on, Elara said, taking his hand, before the house actually burns down. They went inside together, and as the door closed behind them, the world outside continued turning. Indifferent, relentless. But inside that small house by the sea, two people who'd been forged in fire and blood and lies had found something rare. Peace. Not perfect, not without cost, but real. And in the end, that was all they'd ever wanted. To be seen, to be known, to be loved. Not for who they were supposed to be, but for who they'd become. The gardener's daughter and the crime lord, the heir and the exile. Two broken people who'd built something whole. And as the stars came out over the Spanish coast, Elara Corvin smiled. Because for the first time in her life, she wasn't running from her past. She was building a future, and it was hers, completely, utterly, irrevocably hers. The end.